This is the Humble Togs podcast, where photographers of all experience levels share their journey and not just the highlight reel. I'm Sneddon, a photographer and mentor with over 2 decades behind the camera. I'm here to create a space where photographers lift each other up, learn together, and no one's going to be a dick to you. If you're a humble tog, then stick around. If you're a photo bro who loves being a jerk to other photographers, you can keep on scrolling, my friend. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome to the Humble Togs podcast. This is a podcast that I've had in the works for a little while. I've actually tried a number of different times to start recording it, and I'm finally kind of set up and organized, and I've got a really great plan for what this podcast is going to be. And what that's going to be is a community podcast. I know there are a lot of podcasts out there in photography that go through skills-based things, and I'm going to talk about some photography stuff, but I also have a really big passion at the moment for community in photography and growing a community in photography where photographers aren't being jerks to each other. So I want to introduce you to the members of my club. I want to showcase their talents and their successes and their life stories. I find that if you just scratch the surface with anyone and spend a bit of time with someone, you can really find a wonderful story that comes out from their experience, and we can learn from all sorts of walks of life. And as a photographer, as a human, I can certainly learn from everyone that I speak to about life, about experience, and I just really enjoy that process. I want to talk about the problem in the photography industry of constructive criticism, because that's where this whole idea started. I saw, and look, I've been a photographer for over 20 years, and I've seen this before for a long time, where people post photos in social media groups or in any kind of photography forum, and they instantly get a couple of things potentially. And when constructive criticism is asked for, usually a lot of people just throw insults up and maybe are confused with the idea that an insult is not constructive criticism. An opinion is not a constructive criticism. So a lot of people just throw their opinions up. Oh, that's too dark. That one's too light. You need to straighten the horizon. All these bullshit comments that people think are constructive criticism are just usually opinions, and they're not founded in anything that actually helps the photographer who is actually asking for help. And even worse, on the worst end of the scale, you just get people that are just, throwing their toxic, ego-filled claims around to try and make them feel better and make you feel crap. So that was the original idea with the club. I was actually going live on social media. I was just figuring out how the live thing worked, and I just started running lives where I had my phone on a light stand pointed at my computer, and I was just retouching, because I retouch all the time, and I was just retouching and doing my work. And I remember when I started photography, I was learning in the digital space, and I learned on film as well, but I met a guy who was a Photoshop retoucher, and I was just kind of begging him at the time, can I just come and sit over your shoulder? And I just want to watch to see what you do. And of course, that sounded a bit creepy at the time, but he was gracious enough to let me to come and visit his work site for a couple of days. And I went and just kind of sat and watched him work and asked him some questions about it. But certainly, if you are out there and wanting to learn Photoshop, wanting to learn how to do things in photography, that was kind of the idea. Let's try and figure out how I can impart to you some of the wisdom and some of the things that I've built up over time, 20 years or so in Photoshop and photography, and all the business things that I have in my brain. I'd love to be able to impart those to you if you are someone that is learning photography or wanting to grow your business in photography. So going back to constructive criticism, I want to talk about the kind of constructive criticism or the good feedback that I give in Humble Talks Club and whenever I talk to people about their photography. Well, let's talk about what good feedback actually is. Number one, I think the first thing in order to give any type of feedback has to be that you need to ask, what was your intention here? A lot of the time, if people put up a photo and then like the usual thing they'll get back is, oh, that's too dark. And it's like, well, maybe the photographer wanted it to be dark. So that's not a good piece of feedback. If someone puts up a photo, my first thing is, what were you going for here? Did you mean to make it dark? Are you unsure how to not make it dark? Any of those questions need to be asked first. And then once you have an idea of what the photographer's intention was, then you can actually give feedback. And I don't actually believe you can give any kind of decent feedback until you understand some of those basics about a photographer's intention and what they're going for and what their style is anyway. So say a photographer puts up a photo and it's a bit out of focus. Usually people will be like, oh, you can't focus it, or you don't know what you're doing about focus. A lot of people don't know what it looks like to have something out of focus slightly, or I certainly remember when I was learning, you don't understand the difference between a slightly out of focus photo and a not out of focus photo. You also don't understand where to focus. I made a piece of social content a little while back where I was just talking about mirrorless cameras, and I still shoot on an SLR. I'm not a big gearhead, and I certainly have flown that flag in the club and on my social media all the time. I'm not really here to talk about gear and talk about which lens is better than others. It's just not my jam. My personal gear I've had for 15 years or so. I haven't upgraded it. I just keep buying the same secondhand versions of the same thing, and yeah, I just don't believe in a big race to the top of the fanciest gear. Having said that, if you're a person that shoots in mirrorless, that's completely fine. But I made this piece of content where I was saying I came back to social media after being away. I went off to work in TV and film. I was working in TV shows in America for a couple of years, and then that whole industry's kind of crashed now. So I'm kind of coming back to photography and then looking at this space of mentoring. And I created this piece of content saying, oh my gosh, is this how photographers are shooting these days? Holding the camera out in front of them and just pressing the button like it's an iPhone? And then I also went on to say, how do you see the focus if you're doing that? A lot of younger people were commenting on like, oh, you just tap the button of the screen. And I was like, I understand how the mechanics of that camera works. I'm asking you, how do you see the focus? And going back to what I was talking about before, when you're learning photography, you don't actually know the difference between that the camera is focused on, the front of the front eye and maybe not the back eye. And if you're focused on the back eye and the front eye is out of focus, that's kind of what I'm talking about there. And it went over a lot of people's heads, but it did start the group off very well, because a lot of people that knew what I was talking about jumped on in and said, oh, this guy is funny. This guy knows what he's talking about. And that's how we started the club right at the beginning. So we've been going for about coming up to a year now. It's about 9 months or so now. And Humble Togs Club is my community for photographers who aren't being jerks to each other. The idea of this podcast is to create community around that. I will be talking a little bit about photography and hopefully, giving you some ideas to learn in photography and to grow your business, and hear from a bunch of other photographers that are in the club already. But I also want this to be a space where community is celebrated. If you are in the club, just by listening along, you'll get to know all the people that are in the club. I'll be interviewing members of the club throughout the podcast. And this is really a space for me to celebrate the people and the good humans that are in photography, and we'll let all the people that like to basically bully each other online, we'll leave all those guys over there. They can make their own photo group over there. Over here, we're making a photo club for photographers who aren't being dicks to each other. So if you're a photographer who has gone to those clubs and have tried to ask for help, and you've just been slammed with arrogant advice, opinions, and just downright bullying, this is going to be a safe space for you, and I hope to hear from you soon. Please comment below. Please follow the podcast. On the next episodes, we're going to get into interviewing some of the members. I look forward to getting to know you, to help you build your photography passion, your career, whatever it is. This is a space I want to welcome you to, because here's the harsher reality about that toxic space. If you are someone who has just tried to get your confidence up to a level where you can feel comfortable to shoot and to share your work with other people, if you put up an image, and I've seen this many times, someone that's finally gotten the confidence to say, I'm really proud of this image, and puts it up in a photo competition or a group or forum, and then it just gets ripped apart by all these jerks who are saying, oh, you haven't done this right, you haven't done that right, blah, blah, blah. The worst thing that actually happens is that I've seen people then just go and give up on photography, right? Which is the opposite of what I want to do, what any of us should be doing. We want to try and lift people up to help them learn and help them grow and be better as photographers, not tear someone down, because that's what ends up happening. They'll end up just going and wanting to quit, and that is not where we want people to be when they first start learning photography. So my friends, you don't need better criticism, you need better people around you. And that's exactly what I want to build here in Humble Togs Club. I'm building a community of photographers who are just the good humans, the emotionally mature humans, the ones that are going to help you learn, celebrate you, celebrate your wins, celebrate your losses, celebrate their wins, their losses, their failures. I'm going to speak a bit more about failure on a different episode, but failure is a big thing that I talk about a lot of the time. And just to go over that quickly, failure is the necessary element for you to learn something. And a lot of people talk about failure like it's, I'm trying not to fail, I'm scared of failure, all those things. If you reframe your thinking to understand that failure is the thing you have to get up and do every day in order to learn something, to learn a skill, to be better at something, whatever you're doing, learning violin, learning how to walk. When babies learn how to walk, what do? They just keep trying it and they fail their way to figuring out how it works. That's exactly what any of us do each time we learn something. Again, that's going to be a whole nother episode. I'll talk about that later. I've been building out this platform. I've been building out my ideas for this podcast. I feel like I finally got it down and understand what I'm doing here. I look forward to welcoming you on the next episodes, and we're going to interview some of the members of Humble Togs Club, talk about all sorts of parts of photography, talk about their experience in photography, where they are now, and how they've gotten to where they are today. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.